Dr. Elias Mercer had long believed that language was humanity's most delicate skeleton key, a device that could open every locked room in the human condition without altering anything inside. That faith steadied him through a career spent tracing phantom etymologies and stitching together fragments of extinct tongues. But when the university's Near Eastern archive couriered him a sealed cedar crate excavated from the Zagros foothills, he discovered a language that opened doors by closing others, inside his own mind. The crate's contents seemed ordinary at first, a stack of shale tablets, their cuneiform incisions crabbed and unfamiliar, protected by straw and tagged with an excavation number. Elias brushed away dust, photographing each tablet before lifting it to the lamp. He expected to cross-reference symbols with Akkadian, Hurrian, anything. Instead, the characters stared back like a hall of mirrors, recognizable angles and wedges, yet arranged in impossible symmetries. The excavation report offered one clue. Pre-Diluvian, undated, the field archaeologist had scribbled. Context, ritual precinct, lunar motifs abundant. Elias spent the first night transcribing. By dawn, he'd identified a repeating string, 21 characters long. Most ancient scribes used repetition for headers or prayers, so he sounded out rough phonemes, substituting values from related scripts. Vowels shimmered like heat waves, but the consonant frame yielded a phrase, Shedanawar. It meant nothing in any lexicon. Still, his pulse quickened. Here was something genuinely unclassified, a chance to become the Rosetta Man. He concocted coffee thick as clay and kept translating. The next tablet contained a single declarative line. When he finished parsing it, "The moon drinks the mind that names her," his vision unspooled, as if someone tugged the film from the projector. Faces dissolved from memory. His mother's laugh, his doctoral advisor's handshake, all gone like smoke in wind. A throb rippled behind his sternum, then a neon spark of fury flashed at the base of his skull. In that instant, he wanted, with an intensity bordering on erotic, to press his thumbs into a stranger's larynx. The desire vanished almost as soon as it arrived, leaving his palms slick. He jolted from the desk. Lack of sleep, he told himself. Caffeine hallucination. But when he tried recalling his mother's face again, there was nothing, just the knowledge of an absence. A piece had been chiseled off him. Calm down. Catalog everything. Right now, he remembered the sentence on the tablet with perfect clarity. He opened a fresh notebook and wrote 3 observations. 1. Translation event correlated with episodic amnesia. 2. Translation event correlated with intrusive violent ideation. 3. Hypothesis, psychogenic reaction or artifact effect. He resolved to test. He would translate the next line tomorrow after proper rest, approaching it like any empirical procedure. The second line read, "Let no vessel bear water beneath a red moon, lest its bearer drown on dry land." As soon as he completed the clause, a different memory vanished. His college apartment, the map of train routes he'd annotated with his partner Layla during a whirlwind summer. He could summon her name, but not the smell of cut limes on her wrists, not the chipped plaster ceiling they'd stared at together. Meanwhile, another pulse of savagery spiked, an image of shattering a ceramic mug against someone's temple. It felt instructional, rehearsed. He penned frantic notes, fingers trembling. Panic whispered that the text itself was the vector, a linguistic contagion. Symbols carved into shale 5 millennia ago were rewriting him, line by inexorable line. The impulse said, "Continue." In fact, it urged hurry, as though the words themselves hungered for articulation. But the rational clip of his own voice on an old lecture recording reminded him of protocol. He isolated the project in his home office, warning colleagues of a sudden flu. He unplugged phones, disabled Wi-Fi, sealed curtains. Then he sat at the oak desk, tablets stacked like stone pancakes, and tried to calculate how many sentences his identity could afford to lose. There were 93 lines in total. The third translation was harder. grammar tangled with recursive clauses. Hours passed parsing pronominal suffixes. Finally, the sentence shimmered into coherence: bind the breathless with silver cords, and the silver shall drink the breath of the binder. He had barely set down the stylus when a cherished winter memory blinked out. Sledding at 12. The metallic ozone scent of impending snow. In its place, a vivid tableau surged, tying someone to a chair with braided speaker wire, then pressing a silver letter opener against the carotid groove. He recoiled so violently he toppled his chair. His knuckles throbbed from clenching. 3 sentences, 3 amputations of self. Yet the loss carved space for something else, a lucidity, a ruthless clarity akin to hunger that could only be fed by further translation. The tablets demanded voice. Elias reminded himself he was a scientist. He could mitigate damage by externalizing memories before they vanished. He installed a pocket recorder. Every hour he narrated personal reels, names of childhood pets, the taste of quince jam, the creak of library floorboards, hoping playback might anchor them if translation cut the tether. Day blurred into night. The city beyond his blinds persisted. Sirens, intermittent laughter, a horn's forlorn yawp. He existed in a bubble of silent shale. Sentence 4 spoke of 7 shadow wells, and with its articulation went the memory of his father teaching him to drive. Sentence 5 elaborated upon lunar ascension. There went the scent of old leather dictionaries. By sentence 12, he struggled to remember the names of undergraduate advisees. Violent intrusions scaled proportionally, knifing commuters on the metro, snapping a pigeon's neck one-handed. He felt these not as moral temptations, but as instructions tucked into muscle memory. Realizing the pattern, he pinpointed a larger structure. Each line was less a discrete statement and more a step in choreography. The tablets constituted a ritual manual, each clause programming the reader as performer. He rummaged among excavation notes until he found a final scrap. Eclipse predicted 14 Shedu by temple priests. With hasty conversions, he matched that to an upcoming super blood moon only 6 nights away. If the text sought embodiment, the eclipse was surely its aperture. Hit with fear, Elias attempted abstinence. He locked the tablets in a file cabinet and shoved the key behind radiator fins. Yet around 2 a.m., he woke from dreamless sleep, already kneeling at the cabinet with a screwdriver, eyes open but vacant. He'd extracted the key and held it poised before realization dawned. Trembling, he crawled back to bed, clutching the key like a talisman, vowing to deliver the tablets to the university vault at first light. Morning came. Resolution didn't. He brewed tea to stall, then listened to the overnight recorder, his voice babbling euphonic syllables not in any modern tongue. Playback made his scalp prickle. He had been sleep translating. Through partial amnesia, he recalled a fragment, something about an offering of 9 limbs. Panic spiked. What if the manual demanded not merely violence but dismemberment? Would he be the butcher or the slab? He phoned his colleague, Professor Sharp, in sociolinguistics. "There's a text I need second-level containment," he whispered, fighting to steady timbre. Sharp promised to come by after his noon lecture. That gave Elias 4 hours. He spent them packing his dictaphone logs, scrawled charts, and the tablets into an archival crate. With every wrapped object, an urge amplified to unwrap it again. He felt like a recovering addict packing away vials. At 11:45 a.m., a thunderous knock jolted him. He opened the door expecting Sharp. Instead, 2 uniformed police officers stood there. "Dr. Mercer, we received a welfare request," the taller one said. "Your neighbor reported shouting." Elias blinked. Had he been shouting? The officers peered over his shoulder and spotted the crate. "Mind if we come in?" Something inside hissed, "They can't take the tablets." "No, everything is fine," he said too quickly. The shorter officer's hand drifted toward her holster, a casual movement that triggered a surge of programming. Elias's vision tunneled. He pictured slamming the door, pivoting, and driving a chisel through her orbital socket. He tasted copper, imagined blood sprayed on the crate's lid. The moment passed, leaving him gasping. "Sir?" the taller one repeated. Elias forced a smile so wide it ached. "Apologies, intense deadline. Give me your card, I'll reassure the neighbor later." They exchanged stiff pleasantries, suspicion hanging like cordite. When the door shut, Elias locked it, bolted it, dragged a bookcase across it. His heartbeat synced to a cadence he recognized from the tablets, a drum pattern for summoning the breathless. He no longer trusted himself to wait for Sharp. He opened his laptop, planning to send an emergency dataset to a secured archive. But as the screen glowed, he found his fingers typing out the 9th sentence instead, cuneiform auto-mapping to phonetics. "The binder shall greet the watchers with the blood of repudiated kin." His sister's name vanished from his mind before he finished hitting return. He slammed the laptop shut, hyperventilating. He needed outside help uncontaminated by the language. An idea sparked. A psycholinguist at St. Vincent's Hospital specialized in aphasia. If anyone could measure his cognitive decay, it was Dr. Yara Benu. Elias grabbed a random tablet, wrapped it in canvas, and braved daylight. Every pedestrian seemed fragile, skulls filled with warm clay. He kept both hands buried in coat pockets lest they act on their own. At the hospital, he stammered through triage until Yara emerged, auburn curls and clinical calm. In her office, he unraveled, confessing everything: the memory loss, the impulses, the lunar timeline. Yara listened without flinching, then proposed a grounding experiment. She asked him to recite autobiographical facts while she monitored galvanic skin response. He obliged, but mid-sentence he misfired a verb, substituting a syllable from the lost language. The electrodes spiked. Suddenly he couldn't recall the name of his childhood street. He clutched the arms of the chair. "Elias, you're dissociating," Yara said gently. "Let's pause." He reached into his satchel for the wrapped tablet to show her, and froze. Presenting the tablet would expose her, risk infecting her cognition. The ritual wanted fresh performers. He pictured Yara standing under the eclipse, hair whipped by wind, chanting the syllables he had given her. The thought filled him with possessed elation. He snapped his bag shut. "Maybe you're right," he said. "I just need rest." Yara's eyebrows knitted. "I'm admitting you for observation. It's voluntary, but I insist." Alarm howled in his brain. Hospitalization would separate him from the tablets, delay the ritual. For the first time, he registered that he didn't want escape. He wanted completion. He stood abruptly, mumbling thanks, and bolted, leaving spooked orderlies in his wake. Outside, clouds herded across an anemic sky. 5 nights to Eclipse. He returned home to find the crate tipped. The officers? A neighbor? But nothing was missing. Instead, new items rested on top. A spool of silver coaxial cable, 9 votive candles, a bone-handled knife. He didn't remember acquiring them. Perhaps he'd purchased them during a fugue. The realization should have chilled him. Instead, he felt relief. The glossary between text and flesh was writing itself. That evening, Sharp finally called, voicemail gruff. "Elias, I waited an hour. Are you okay?" The voice triggered a faint memory. Coffee with Sharp after conferences, debating semiotics. He tried to reply but remembered not the number nor the color of Sharp's eyes. Translation cost was accelerating. He located sentence 15 and, almost absently, spoke it aloud. "Let the binder flay doubt with lunar iron." Something inside shivered and hardened, like molten metal quenched. He rolled up shirt sleeves. On his forearm was a line of glyphs carved in shallow blood. He had no memory of doing it. Under lamplight, the cuts resembled the very characters he'd been decoding. He traced them, half curious, half reverent. The next days compressed into a braided rope of blackout and lucidity. He ate only when automated hunger insisted. Showers were forgotten. Recordings revealed him chanting complex meter, pacing in perfect circles exactly 2.3 meters in diameter. Dimensions specified in Sentence 21. Reports on the radio of random assaults trickled in. A pedestrian garroted with speaker wire, a commuter slashed by silver box cutters. Elias listened with distant recognition. He had no proof he'd left the apartment, but under his fingernails black crescents hinted otherwise. The eve of the eclipse arrived. The tablets were nearly complete. A few fragmentary lines remained. Outside, the moon rose engorged, already flushed with copper. Elias arranged the candles in a pattern matching an ancient star map. He coiled silver cable around the oak chair in the room's center, humming an atonal scale. Yet a final rational ember inside him plotted sabotage. If he destroyed the last tablet before decoding, maybe the script would abort. He positioned it over a metal bowl. Lighter fluid ready. Flame flared. Clay cracked, inscriptions glowing orange. For a heartbeat he felt free. Then a gust, no, his own reflex, snatched it from the fire, dousing it in spilled tea. Clay hissed steam. He cradled it, horror and relief warring. Eclipse totality crept across the sky. Time to finish. He translated line 92, voice resonant. The vessels shall remember only the thirst of the moon. Flickers of his remaining identity dissolved. He couldn't recall why charred shards lay at his feet. The final line was chipped, only partial. He squinted at orphan glyphs, then improvised phonemes to bridge gaps, like a musician finishing a forgotten melody. He spoke the completed sentence, its cadence ancient and absolute. Silence followed, thick as velvet. The world outside held its breath. Then awareness telescoped outward. He felt every alley shadow, every heartbeat within a mile, all thrumming to the same buried drum. Other readers existed, copyists of the virus. Some had been police officers, commuters, neighbors, even perhaps Yara now reading the notes he'd so carefully left behind. They converged unconsciously toward nodes of violence. The offering would be widespread, a mosaic of blood knitting a pattern only the moon could see. In the center of his workshop, Elias strapped himself to the chair with the silver cable, not as prisoner, as anchor. The text echoed that the binder must be bound, lest the breathless escape unchaperoned. Candlelight flickered over carved forearm glyphs. He raised the bone-handled knife, slicing across the largest cut. Blood welled, bright as wet rust. He dripped it into a clay bowl, moonlight turning each drop to black glass. Outside, air horns screamed, tires skidded, distant sirens ululated. Through the open window, he heard riot song, metal on metal, an organ pipe of terror. He sensed each action because the language had remapped his sensory cortex to a networked array. He could taste a woman's scream 4 blocks away. The shadow of Earth swallowed the moon wholly. Totality. In that moment, Elias glimpsed the architecture of the ritual, a planetary circuit completed only once every several millennia, when linguistic pattern, cognitive substrate, and celestial alignment synchronized. Humanity herself provided the electricity, the moon, the switch. He inhaled, preparing the climactic utterance stored not in tablets but implanted impulse. The syllables rose, pressing against his larynx. But before sound emerged, the rational ember flared one last time. He realized improvisation earlier might have malformed the ritual. If even one phoneme differed from the primeval blueprint, feedback might loop. Hands trembling, he spoke anyway, letting doubt fracture emphasis on the 5th syllable. Sound rippled like silk torn underwater. The candles extinguished in unison. Pressure built behind his eyes. A gout of vertigo slammed him. Across the neighborhood, screams cut short, as though the circuit had blown. When vision returned, he sat still bound, knife fallen. Streetlights outside guttered, city blocks blinking dark. The crimson moon hung duller, as if drained instead of drunk. Inside his skull, echoes faded, leaving cavernous quiet. He groped for memory. Slowly, like shutters unlatching, fragments returned. His mother's face, sledding laughter, Layla's lime-scented wrists. They fluttered delicate, incomplete, yet present. The violent choreography lay silent, a rusted machine. He had short-circuited the right. Hours later, dawn bruised the horizon. Elias freed himself, muscles quivering. News bulletins crackled, scattered assaults, sudden blackouts, mass confusion, but no apocalyptic carnage. Casualties, tragic yet localized. He sank to the floor, sobbing with something like gratitude. Still, the tablets remained, some intact, some charred. The language persisted, like seeds waiting for next spring. Elias understood his obligation. He gathered every shard, packed them in the cedar crate. Then, while sunrise licked treetops, he trudged toward the river. At the waterfront, he heaved the crate onto a skiff, rowed hard until the city was a line of glass spines. He draped weights, old engine blocks, over the crate, then tipped it, listening to wood moan and bubbles kiss the surface. Water closed. Ripples spread, then stilled. Beneath, silt swirled around humanity's most dangerous dictionary. Elias sat in the skiff, arms trembling, unsure whether the memories regained would stick, whether dormant impulses might wake in some midnight years hence. He only knew that languages loved hosts, and this one would hunger forever. But for now the world breathed untransfigured, clouds corralling sunlight across forgiving water, and a man who had emptied himself for words began to relearn his own.